All right, hey everyone. Welcome to our ScreenCloud event training session. We're very excited to have you all here today. Whether you're brand new to ScreenCloud, exploring a trial, or you're a seasoned pro who's looking to level up your digital signage skills, you're in the right place. Let me quickly make some introductions before we dive in. My name is Chris Holmgren, and I'm the Director of Professional Services. And with me is Erica Jones, who will be your trainer and guide for today's session. While Erica is running through the presentation, I'll be helping with any chats or questions that you have. Please make sure to use the chat, Q&A, and polls that we've included in today's event. And if there are any issues, please make sure you click on the help button. I believe that's in the lower right-hand corner of your window. The session is going to be recorded, so you'll always be able to watch it back. So now let me tell you a little bit about what makes this session special, right? This isn't just another webinar. You are in the driver's seat today. We've designed this training to be interactive, personalized, and focused on the things that matter most to you. So here's how we're going to get things set up. We'll give you a brief overview of ScreenCloud Studio so everyone's up to speed. And from there, we'll take from the audience, any things you want to learn, dive into specific features or anything you want to explore, ask about apps, integrations, workflows, things you're curious about. Right? Whether you're here to learn the basics or you want to fine tune your current signage strategy, right? We're ready to take you where you want to go. So before we jump in, I've actually included a poll in the event today. So if you want to, right, we can jump over to that poll. I'm actually going to push it out to the stage so that you can see it. And if you want to answer that poll for us, kind of let us know what where you are in your ScreenCloud journey, right? Are you brand new? Are you a trialist? Are you a new user? Are you seasoned pro? Looking forward to hearing everybody's answers. And then after that, if you want to put a note into the audience chat, we'll be here to chat with you there as well. Awesome. Okay, so I'm about to over to Erica, right? And I'll be in, like I said, I'll be in the chat and Q&A if you have any sort of questions. But Erica, on over to you.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Just to go over the training agenda for today, as you probably know, digital signage, there are two components. There's a hardware component, which would be the screens and the playing device. And then there's the software component, which would be the ScreenCloud Studio. And that's what we'll be focused on in today's training. We'll be walking through an overview of the platform in its entirety. We'll start by talking about what spaces are. We will talk about how to add and pair screens in your account. We'll do a brief overview of account settings, and then we'll focus on how you can create content through the use of apps, Canvas, dashboard, links, and our media features. And then we'll talk about how to put that content together through the use of playlists and channels. At the end, we'll talk about what other help resources are going to be available to you in the platform beyond today's webinar. That being said, I will go ahead and jump into the platform. I'm going to turn my camera off so that the recording will be focused on the content. All right. For today's demo, I will be jumping into a demo environment. This is a platform that is set up for the purpose of training. When you log into the ScreenCloud platform, the first thing that you might notice is going to be the screens page. This will be the landing page in the platform for most users that have access to the account. Today's training, I want to start off by talking about the space bar here in the top left corner. The organizations in ScreenCloud are set up almost like a house. I like to think of the organization set up like a house. And in your house, the way that your company is set up in the platform, you can determine how many bedrooms you want in your house. And the bedrooms are the spaces. The spaces will house screens, content, media files. It's a way to keep things grouped together and separated. Some companies might only have one space. Maybe a company manages all of their digital signage with a team for all of their locations. In that case, one space may be appropriate. And some of our customers have hundreds of spaces. They may have a space for each location that they have. Maybe that's a geographical location. It could be a different space for a different department, maybe a marketing space, an HR space. There is no necessarily right or wrong way to set up spaces in your account. It's going to be what works best for you and your organization. But the spaces are a way to keep things organized in groups. It's also a way to restrict access to certain locations. So user access. When you're inviting someone into the platform, you get to tell the system which space or which bedroom they can go into. If you are an admin user, you are like the parent of the house. You can go into all of the bedrooms and access all of the spaces. So that's essentially what a space is in the system. For today, I'm working out of my Charlotte space. So if I click on the space bar, you might notice that I have 4 locations set up here in my organization in ScreenCloud. If I wanted to toggle to a different location or a different space, I could simply click on the space bar and navigate myself to the Houston or LA space. Notice with Houston, I don't currently have any screens set up. However, if I click back into the Charlotte space, you'll notice that I do have a screen in my screens page. So next I want to talk a little bit about the screens page and what we're seeing here. From the screens page, I mentioned this will be what you see when you first initially log into the platform. Here I'm seeing all of the screens that are currently paired with the space that I'm logged into, which right now is Charlotte. So I have this one screen currently set up. This is my warehouse screen. It's located in my warehouse. I can see the device that's running the screen. For me specifically, that is a ScreenCloud operating device. Some of you may be using Amazon Fire Sticks or other players. In this case, I am using a ScreenCloud device. I can see the name of my screen. I can even see what it's currently playing. I have the ability to change the content that's playing on the screen with the Set Content button. We are going to see this button throughout the platform, which I'll point out throughout different features as we go along training today. I can also see the status of my screen. It's currently live, which is the ideal status. That means the screen is paired to an internet connection and it's powered on. From here, I have a few other options. If I were to click on the 3 black dots, I can also set content from this menu. I can refresh the screen. I can transfer the screen to a different space if needed. I can edit the location and I can even add a note, which we'll talk about in just a moment. If I click on the actual screen, I can see exactly what's playing. On my warehouse screen right now, you can see I'm playing a warehouse channel. I know that I'm playing a channel because the now playing bar indicates I'm playing a warehouse channel. This lightning bolt icon, if I look to the left, tells me I'm playing a channel. And a channel is really an ideal way to stream content on a screen because it will allow you to create different layout options like we're seeing here. Right now, I'm playing what's called a 4-zone channel. I have a main zone here with my main content. I have a side panel that's displaying safety incidents. I've got a mini zone here in the corner that's displaying a clock. And then I'm also displaying a ticker along the bottom. I'm doing that through the use of app content. So these 3 zones are actually pulling from an app, which I'll show you how to utilize in a moment. So this is an example of one of the many ways you can display content on a screen, and this is through the use of channels. I also want to go ahead and show you how you can add additional screens to a space. When you have your TV screen, it's up and running, it's running the ScreenCloud app. Once you get to that stage, it will generate what's called a pairing code. I can simply come here and copy my pairing code, and then I'll want to open the ScreenCloud Studio platform. I'll want to be logged into the space that I need to add the screen for. In this case, we'll be setting one up in the Charlotte location. I'll simply click New Screen here at the top right corner and add that pairing code into the window. You have the option of putting the screen in preview mode. That would allow you to test out content and it would have a watermark. In this case, I want to go ahead and just add it. I don't want to preview it. So I'll simply click Continue. You might notice these numbers here at the bottom. This tells me how many of my current licenses I'm using that are set up. So in my package, I have 5 licenses or 5 screens, and I'm currently using 1 out of the 5. When I click Continue, it will pair that screen using the code. The very first thing that I want to do, and a good best practice here in the platform, is that I want to name my screen here at the top. I'm going to name mine Break Room because the screen is going in my break room. And now notice that it's automatically playing the ScreenCloud logo. I can leave that as is, or if I already have content built in my system, I can go ahead and choose a channel to put on my screen. For right now, we're going to leave it with the ScreenCloud logo because we're going to assign this to play a new channel at the end of training. From here, I have some other options. I'll want to make sure for settings that the screen is in the correct orientation. It will default to landscape. In the event that I have a screen that is hung in a vertical or portrait mode, I would want to change the orientation to 90 degrees. From here, I'd want to verify the time zone is accurate for the screen's location. I am located in Charlotte. We're in Eastern time, so this is correct. I'll leave it as is. And the next thing I'll want to do here, which is optional but highly recommended, is adding the screen location. I can type in my location and save it, and I'll show you why we're doing that when we get into our app content. From here, I have a few more options. If I'm using a tablet device to enable touch, I could simply toggle that on. And then I have a few more playback options. I can also go through, and my device info is here, tells me what type of player and some other options about the screen itself. From here, I can even add a note. A note is simply internal facing. It's just something to help keep yourself organized in your screens menu. In this example, if my break room remote, maybe my remote for my screen is kept in the HR manager office, I could simply leave a note. There is no save button, so I'll just simply click back. And when I do, notice that break room screen that I just added is now in my screens menu. Notice that it populates at the top. I can create what's called screen groups, which you're seeing here in the black header for warehouse. So I have a screen group. In order to keep myself organized, maybe this is going to be in my office building. I could simply add a screen group, and maybe my break room is located in my office building. I can simply click and drag to organize my screens. This won't impact any of the content. It's just simply a way to stay organized. From here, I can even go to my screens manager menu. Right now, we're seeing the screens that are only in the Charlotte location or the Charlotte space that I'm working out of. However, I could click on screens manager menu. And if I had screens in my other offices, for example, the Houston office or New York, here I would see all of the screens that are currently paired for the entire organization. I have some options here. I could select all, and I could set content for the entire organization. If I had 100 screens paired, I could change the content or even cast content for every screen in the company. Here I can even filter by status. So both of my screens are currently live, but you could actually filter for offline status if you're needing to troubleshoot any screens. If you ever see an offline status, oftentimes that's due to a lost internet connection or power. So those would be the two things that we recommend checking first. From the screens menu, we're now going to go ahead and navigate ourselves to the left-hand side of the page. And we'll start with the bottom and work our way up through the features, hitting all of the features throughout the training today. If you click on your name in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see a menu appear. Screens Manager is the window that we just visited. This is just a different way to get to the same place. We can even check our trash can if we're deleting files. And then I can even go to account settings. Account settings is something your admin users will have access to. And this is where you'll go to set up some of the structural pieces of the account. The My Accounts tab will house your email preferences and names. The Organization tab will be where you can customize certain features within the platform, depending on the package that you have with us. The Look and Feel tab will allow you to set up what's called themes so that you can create a more branded look with your content when using channels, which I'll highlight throughout the training. Depending on your package, if you have a pro or enterprise account with us, you'll have the ability to upload custom fonts. Your billing tab will be where your invoices are housed. You can make and switch payment types. People tab is where you can go to invite users to the account. So this is where you can simply send them an invite, letting them gain access to the platform. The groups and roles will be where you can assign groups to the system. Groups tell the system what spaces or what bedrooms those users can have access to, along with what permission settings they'll have. So the roles tell the system what permission settings that a user would have, what they can do once they're in the platform. And the group tells the system what roles and what spaces they have access to. The spaces is where we can manage the spaces. And for those of you that have a pro or enterprise account with us, you would have a proof of play option and audit logs. These just show the content that's been played, and audit logs will show changes that have been made in the system. The developer tab here is something that would house an API key if you ever need to set up an API key for an app or content that you might be adding. This is where that would be located. I'm going to go ahead and click the Back to Studio button at the top left corner. And now we're back on the main landing page. If you're looking above your name, you'll notice the support option. This is a really great tool for resources beyond today's training. ScreenCloud University is where you can sign up for additional classes. These are self-led. So these are courses on Digital Signage 101, how to navigate through the platform, and so forth. The Help Center is where you can go to search different questions you may have in the platform, essentially like ScreenCloud Google search. And then we even have the Contact Us button. This will take you to our support team that's available 24/5. We'll show you how you can reach out to them via email or through phone. The What's New, this will tell you all of the new upgrades we've had to the platform or software releases. We're constantly improving the platform from feedback and making it the most optimal way to display digital signage. So we are constantly updating and improving, and the What's New tab will keep you up to date on the changes that have been made in the platform. First, we're going to go ahead and start off with the metrics. The metrics is a feature that will be available for Pro and Enterprise packages. This will track QR codes that have been generated in the platform and scanned when they're viewed on a screen. A really great way to track efficacy of the QR codes you might be populating for things like open enrollment, registration, employee survey scores, whatever it might be. The metrics feature will track the QR codes that have been populated here in the platform. Now we're going to spend the bulk of our time talking about the ways that you can actually create content in the platform. I like to call those the building blocks for content creation. And that will be through the use of media, links, dashboard, canvas, and apps. So these 5 features are where we're going to really go to create and add content into the system. So we're going to spend the next few minutes creating content here. Once we've created that content and we've built up our library, so to speak, we'll end the training by talking about how you can put that together through the use of playlists and channels. So we're going to start from the bottom for that reason, because we have to first add content before we can put it on a screen. One of my favorite ways to add content is going to be through the use of apps. Earlier, when I clicked into my warehouse channel that I had playing on my screen, you may have noticed that we had the 4 zones that I pointed out, and 3 of them were actually populating from app content: the clock, the news ticker, and the accident-free counter. So if you click on the apps feature, you'll first land on the App Store, and you'll see 2 tabs. You'll see App Store and My Apps. The App Store is where you can find all of the apps that will be available in your package. You can either choose certain categories, for example, social media, or you can simply click on the All Apps tab, and here you'll see all of the apps that are available on the platform. When using an app for the first time, you can simply click on the app, or you can search apps by using the search bar here at the top. In this example for today, I'll be setting up a weather app. So I'll simply type in the word weather and it'll populate weather for me. When I click on the app that I'm wanting to use for the first time, a window will pop up giving you 2 different options. You'll either be able to navigate yourself to the app guide, which is simply a help guide that walks you through using the app and the platform, or you can simply click Get. When I click Get, notice I'm using weather for the very first time. A window has opened prompting me to create what's called an instance. An instance is a variation of data that's pulling from an app. So it's using the app to create the data. You can create multiple different pieces of content or multiple different instances using the same app. With weather, We are going to create a weather instance for Charlotte. So I'll name it Charlotte. A good best practice, like we saw with screen setup, is that you always, always, always want to start by renaming it. You'll want to rename your app content every time. That way it's easier to find when we get to building our channels. From here, you might notice on the left-hand side, there are multiple different fields for me to complete. These look different for every single app in the platform. These are specific to weather, and I'll just simply answer these fields so that I can choose what content will populate. Here, I have the ability to change the language. This is specific to weather. Just be aware that if you do change the language, it will only impact the content for the weather app specifically. It won't change the language on the screen as a whole. It does default to New York if you're located in the States. I can simply change that. And I can put in Charlotte, and it will automatically populate weather for Charlotte. I can even add a second location. If I have an office in New York and I want to display New York weather, and then I also have one in Houston, I could do up to 3 locations here in the weather app specifically. You may remember that when we looked at that channel earlier, the weather app was actually displaying on the side panel. So what we're seeing here on the right-hand side is a preview of what weather would look like if we put it across an entire screen or a full screen. Weather is an app that can fit really nicely on a side panel, or it can even be placed in a ticker to scroll along the bottom of the screen. We have a help guide that outlines exactly which apps will pair nicely in those side and ticker zones, and that help guide is available in our support tab. From here, I can even change temperature unit or ticker tape view. I also have the ability, if I want to, I could create one weather instance for all of my locations. So if I have a location in Houston, Miami, New York, whatever it might be, instead of creating Charlotte, I could just create one that says weather, and I can have it run off of the screen location. So instead of having to fill out the other fields, if I set up a screen location like I did when I paired my screen, I told it was located in Charlotte. If I toggle this on and I put this weather content on that screen, it would automatically pull weather for Charlotte based on the screen location. So this is an option as well. I'll go ahead and leave this off and keep it at Charlotte like we have set up, but know that you can use the screen location as an option. From here, I can click preview, essentially shows me what it would look like on a screen, and now I can save and close it. We started off at the App Store, but notice when we ended with weather, we were taken to the My Apps tab. The My App tab is all of the app content that you have created in the space that you're currently working out of. So in my Charlotte space, if I click on my apps, I'll see all the app content that I've created in this space. Now, if I have created content that I want to share with another space, I can do that. I mentioned that spaces are a way to keep content and screens separated or grouped together, but you can also share content across spaces if you are an admin user or a user that has that ability. You may notice several other apps in here. These are apps that I've created content with prior to this webinar. Some of my favorites, Quick Post. This is a very popular app right now. It's an easy way to create content by hand keying in information. So I've actually made a quick post prior to this call for Christmas fun facts, and I'll just click preview so you can get an idea of what it looks like. This will generate images. It'll also generate text. It's a very easy way to create content. And this is something that we go through in our training, and we have help guides available for as well. We also have some of our other popular apps are going to be the clock app. We've got a count up timer, which we've seen. The ask a question app will populate QR codes that can be tracked in that metrics feature if you have that available. So I encourage you, if you haven't already, to explore some of the apps that are available. Lots of really amazing apps here. Microsoft Teams, if you have that in your account, that's another really popular app as well. If I wanted to share content, like I mentioned, thinking about my Christmas fun facts, If I click on my apps and I click into the instance itself, I can actually click on these 3 black dots and I can share it to another space. So if I wanted to share these Christmas fun facts so that one of my other locations could put it on one of their screens, I could either select the share all button, which would share this content with all of the locations in my organization, all of the rooms in my house, or I could simply toggle on a specific location. In this case, if I'm sharing it with Houston, Houston would receive the shared copy. They won't be able to edit anything on the app content, but they would be able to view it and play it on one of their screens. So if I log into Houston and I go in their apps, there will be a shared by others tab. And here's that quick post content that I've shared with them. So they'll be able to access it in the shared by others tab. All right, so I'll navigate myself back to Charlotte and we were in apps. I don't have a shared by others because no one has shared content to Charlotte from another space. But notice when I was in Houston, the shared by other app tab appeared because content had been shared. Next, I want to show you the Canvas feature. This is the second way or the second building block on adding content into the platform or creating content into the platform. When you log into Canvas, there are going to be 3 tabs here at the top. Canvas is our simplified in-house design editing tool. So it's a great way to create content in a simplified design way. Here, when you log in, you'll see the first thing more than likely you'll land on is what's called the template gallery. The template gallery is simply templates that have been provided by us, from us to you to use. These are great jumping off points. So if you're not quite sure where to start, we have some for employee anniversaries. We've got some for safety. We've got some for food if you're in a food industry. So a lot of different options here. And these are ones that you can actually customize and make your own. So for example, if I'm looking for something for safety, I can start to type the word safety. And here I can find all of the templates that have been provided that are safety related. So from here, I can simply click on a template that's already in the system, and I can make it my own by adding my own logo here. I could change the color, the background color to something that may be my company colors. I can add images. I can remove images. I could change the font. So maybe my custom company font that I've loaded in account settings would be what I'd want to use for this. I can change the font, change the sizes. I can even add QR codes. So here on the left, if I wanted to add a QR code that took my viewers to OSHA to read about slip and falls, I could do that as well. So a lot of really good functionality here in Canvas. So what I'm going to do, like always, is start with renaming it, and I'm going to save and close it. Now, I started off in the template gallery, but once I use the template to make my own version, my version and all of the work that I create in the platform in this particular space, in Charlotte space, will live under my canvases. So here's that canvas that we just created very quickly by using a template that was already provided. You can create canvases from scratch as well. So if I wanted to create something about, let's say we're having an office holiday party, I'd first click the layout of my screen. It will default to full HD. But if I had a custom size, for example, if I wanted to create something to fit in the small side panel, I could choose a custom size. I could create a canvas. I can add an image. I can add an image that I've already uploaded, or I could simply upload a new image altogether by clicking upload. I could find something either on my computer or from one of these options here. If I want to upload an image that I've already added, and that was prior to this webinar, I can add my image. I can add a text box, which populates in the top left corner. So I'll simply grab it. Okay, so we're having a holiday party on December 20th. I can put a few elements in here. I can change the size, like I mentioned earlier. If you have a custom font that's loaded, you can add that. And I can even add a QR code. So let's just pretend that this ScreenCloud website that I'm entering takes them to register for this holiday party. I can put that registration for the holiday party here, click go, and I can actually choose a QR code to add to my graphic right here. And then right now, and I am not a graphic designer, that's probably very obvious at this point, but this is just something for the very quick sake of example, how quickly you can use Canvas and put together something that is screen ready and nice and formatted. The possibilities here, really, you can do so much here with this. So I can add my ScreenCloud logo or my company logo here, give it a little bit more of a branded look. And I can set this right here. And now I'm ready to put this on a screen. So I've named it, I've set it up, and I can save and close it, or I can preview it, which shows me what it would look like on a screen. When I save and close it, notice it lives under my canvas. I can click back on it, and I can even set an expiration date. So setting an availability would allow me to tell the system when to stop airing it on a screen. If our party is on the 20th and our party was at 2 o'clock, I could set it to expire at 2 or 10, whatever makes sense for me. And notice once I set that availability, the icon appears here at the top right, indicating an availability has been set. And what's amazing about this is it makes sure that my content is always up to date and relevant on a screen. Once that time and day hits, this graphic will no longer, or this canvas will no longer air on a screen. A really great feature. I don't have to worry about coming in and taking it off immediately. The system will do the work for me. From here, I can even save this as a template if I wanted to. Saving it as a template would just save it here in my templates. That's for my space. Something that I make often that I don't want to have to keep making every time. Things like birthday wishes for employees, maybe work anniversaries, important announcements. You can simply save them as a template. The template would allow you to use it over and over and over without having to start from scratch. So a really great feature here. I can even share templates that I have across the entire company. I can click publish and share, and I can publish this in a way that every space would have access to this template, or I can choose certain spaces to share it with. If I publish this template across the organization, everybody in every space would have access to it. So if I'm in Houston and I click on Canvas, you'll see that birthday template becomes available. So a really great way to create content and share it company-wide, allowing them to use branded content that you've created. All right, the next feature and way to create content into the platform is through the use of our dashboard feature. With dashboards, this is something that if you are on a pro or enterprise package would be available. If you're not on one of those packages and you're interested, you can definitely partner with your CSM or your sales contact to show you what can be included. The dashboard feature just allows you to create content from password protected sites. We're integrated with multiple different types of dashboard platforms, including Salesforce, Grafana, Tableau. Once it's set up, it would generate content from the desired reports or dashboard feature that you're wanting to display. So if you are interested in dashboards, please partner with the ScreenCloud team and we can get you set up. The next way that you can add content through the system would be through the use of our links feature. This would allow you to put in a URL that would generate content on a screen. Using the ScreenCloud site as an example, here you can see it would generate a piece of content that's reflected on the right-hand side. I can even toggle on an option to display a QR code here in the platform as well, so that when a viewer sees this content, they could scan it and they would be navigated to the ScreenCloud website. I can simply click add link and it becomes a piece of content I can put on a screen. So again, all we're doing so far with apps, Canvas, links, we're just creating content. We're building up our content library so that we can put this in a playlist or channel to put on a screen. So the last building block for content creation is going to be the media feature. The media feature is a way that you can upload content that exists outside of ScreenCloud. So anything that you have a file of that exists outside of ScreenCloud, this is where you're going to go to bring this in. From here, you might notice that prior to this webinar, I've uploaded content already. That's what you're seeing here. This is my media library. This is content I've already uploaded. We support multiple different file types. You can upload videos, graphics. If you're uploading GIFs, those would need to be converted first, but you can upload those once they're converted as well. You can upload multiple media files at a time, and you have unlimited amounts of media that you can upload. The only restriction is the file size would need to be 5 gigs or smaller. In order to upload, you simply click upload, and you have an option to either browse from your computer or one of the other options that we saw previously in the Canvas feature. When uploading, and I'll upload a PowerPoint for an example, you're going to simply find the file here, and then you'll click open and then upload. Once the file uploads or starts to upload, you're going to see it populate at the top of your media library. Notice this is in gray. That means it's still processing. If I were to click it, it tells me it's still processing. You'd want to make sure that the file uploads in its entirety and it becomes a colored thumbnail, indicating it's been successfully uploaded. Here I can see my PowerPoint. If I click on it, I can see all 3 pages of the PowerPoint that I've uploaded. And I can even set an availability. So again, I highly recommend if you're uploading or creating content that is date sensitive, you have a date on it or it's seasonal, something that would only need to be shown at a given period of time, go ahead and set an availability. So if this is a December metrics PowerPoint, I can go ahead and set that to expire in December. I can even put a future start date, which is really nice. Maybe I want to go ahead and start loading things for the new year, but I don't want them to display until January. I can put a future start date as well. So a really cool feature, highly recommend using the availability. Notice that these pieces of content all have availability set, and this one's actually expired. So if I click or hover over the calendar icon, I can see this content expired. I mentioned earlier that the availability will just prevent it from showing it on a screen, but it will not delete the file altogether. The file will still live here in your content library or your canvases. I could, if I wanted to reuse this, I could simply click on it and I could just make the expiration active again and reuse the file. So it's a really great way to reactivate content as well. A good best practice in media is creating folders. Folders help keep yourself organized and keep your media nice and tidy. So if I wanted to make one for PowerPoints, I could simply name it PowerPoint and I can click and drag. I can even share media from one space to the next. In order to do that, the media first needs to be put into a folder. So in order to share any media files across spaces, you would have the media file dropped into a folder. So for example, that PowerPoint folder I just created, now if I wanted to share it with maybe the Houston space, I could do it that way. Or maybe I wanted to share it with everyone in the company, I could click share all. So if you wanted to create a folder and share it, you could do it that way. And you could even create a shared folder. And that would be what would be required in order to share it across spaces. If I set an availability in a shared content, whoever's receiving the shared content, that availability would be effective on their end as well. So that's the last way that you're actually going to add and create media or add and create content into the system. Now that we've built up our media library, let's talk about how we can put those together through playlists and channels. Playlists and channels are probably the biggest point of confusion in the platform is what is the difference between playlists and channels? We can think of playlists like Spotify playlists. If you have a music app, maybe you have a classical music playlist that you use in the morning. Maybe you have a party playlist or a country music playlist. Playlists are a way to group or organize content together. Sometimes we see that done by department, by theme, by campaign, whatever it might be, whatever makes sense to you. In my example here in my demo, I have a corporate comms playlist that would be comms that would apply to everybody in the company because they all need to see cute dog pictures. I might have a dashboards playlist where I have all of my Power BI or maybe my dashboard metrics populating. And maybe that's something that only my office executive team would need to see. And then I might have a playlist that is customer facing. It's content that is something that would be pertinent to customers. So I wouldn't want to display any metrics or anything that's confidential there. So I might have 3 different playlists. For today, we're going to go ahead and create an additional playlist. And this one's going to be for our new break room screen that we created. So this is going to be break room content. In order to add content to my playlist, I'm going to click add content. Now, when I click add content, the media picker window opens and it shows me all the options for content that I can choose from those 5 building blocks where I've added the content. So earlier we created a canvas for slip and falls, and we also created one for the holiday party. So I can add both of those. I can even add content by grabbing it and dragging it over. So that PowerPoint we loaded, I can put over here. I also have other types of content that I loaded prior to this webinar. So I can actually add those here as well. One of them was the quick post that I mentioned with the Christmas. So I'm going to create this kind of Christmas break room channel. So I've got my Christmas content here. I even have, let's see here, my apps. I have a countdown timer that I want to put on. Let's see. And it's a countdown for Christmas. And it looks a little like this. It's going to take a second to populate. Let's see. Got a Christmas countdown timer. So we're going to add that in here as well. So I've got my holiday party, got this, I'm good. Now I can click preview and see what it's going to look like on a screen. I can kind of flip through here on the right-hand side and see what everything looks like. I'm going to go back, and you know what? I've decided I don't think I want this health and safety on here in my break room. I want this to be fun. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. I'm also going to remove this PowerPoint. Notice that right now, this playlist, as it's set up, is 3 minutes. It's a 3-minute loop. I know that because I have 1 minute duration times that are defaulted to play for these different pieces of content. So app and canvas content will be set to play for a minute. However, I could change this to 30 seconds if I only want the app or the content to play for 30 seconds. And I can even rearrange the order in which it's displayed by clicking and dragging. If everything looks good, I've previewed it. The very last thing that I want to do is click publish. Publishing is what's going to save that modification of that playlist. And that is what I'm going to need to do before I assign it to a screen. Now I could share this playlist with all of my spaces or individually. And if I share it, the person that I'm sharing it with or the space that I'm sharing it with, they'll only be able to see it and play it, but they won't actually be able to make any changes to the content itself. So if I go back, I have all of these playlists that I've created. And again, I have the one that we just made right here. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take those playlists that I have, and now I can use them to create channels as well. So I mentioned playlists are a way to group content together. But the nice part about it is that maybe not everybody needs to see those dashboard metrics like I talked about. Maybe that's only a certain group of audience members that would need dashboards. Maybe not everybody needs to see break room. I can use channels to build out programming. So if we think about channels like TV channels that you might watch, NBC, ESPN, in my case, admittedly, Bravo sometimes, the channels don't typically play the same show all day long. There's programming, and we can set it up that way here in ScreenCloud as well. So you can see right now I have 5 channels set up. We're going to set up a new channel today, and this is going to be break room channel. I'm going to click continue. I'm going to pick out my screen orientation, and it's going to look very similar to what we saw with playlists. We have to first add content. Before I do anything though, I want to point out on the right-hand side of the screen, you're going to see a full screen here. All of our channels will automatically be set up in full screen. I want to set this up in a 4-zone layout, kind of like we saw with my warehouse channel. To do that, I'll just simply click Edit Layout. And now I have the ability to choose the way that the content will be displayed. I want to do a 4-zone layout. So I'm going to click 4-zone and I'm going to click select. From here, now that I have a 4-zone layout, I'm going to click which zone I want to add content for. So I'm going to click zone 1, which is the main zone up here. I'll click add content. A media picker window will open. And now notice, now I have all of the same options I saw a little while ago. And I also have playlist. So that break room playlist that we created, we could add. I could add the corporate comms playlist as well, because maybe my break room needs to see both. I could add a piece of app content if I wanted to. Maybe I have an ask a question app I want to put on there. I can add that as well. So it doesn't just have to be playlist, but you can use the channel to create a much bigger loop. That playlist that we created earlier, the break room content, it was only 3 minutes. I could put this with these other items to create a much bigger playlist. I can drag and drop to change the order. And now I can click zone 2 to add my content for that second zone. Weather looks really nice there, so we can go ahead and put that weather that we set up. I can even put a second piece of content if I'm wanting to put a graphic. And then now I can click that bottom right corner. I like to put a clock there, so I can select clock or whatever content would fit. And then this ticker, this zone 3, I can add content for. Here, I'm going to do the countdown timer till Christmas. And now let's go ahead and click preview and see what it looks like. So now we have our main zone, we've got our side zone, our clock, and our countdown here. If I go back, I'm going to go back to the main zone. I am going to get rid of the corporate comms. And what I can do is under settings, I can actually toggle on a theme. So I have a holiday theme set up. And remember in account settings, I was mentioning that's where you could upload your themes and your colors. If you turn on the theme under the settings tab, what it will do is when it pulls in that app content, certain app content will pull through using the theme. Things like the countdown timer, the clock, the weather will pull through using the theme, which is really nice. From here, so notice everything is in red because it's pulling through in the theme that I have applied. I can even add a background if I wanted to. So for backgrounds, I can click add content and add a background if I have a media file. So instead of having that black background, I could, if I have already created it, add a green one. And so now I have a more holiday themed channel. But this is how I could set up a channel. So very quickly, I've plugged in my content and I have a channel. The very last thing I'd want to do is click publish. The publish button is what's going to make those changes effective. And I can even go back and I can share this channel now. I can share it to all spaces or I can share it to individual spaces. When you share a channel, you have 2 options. You can share in a way that they can only play the channel, or you can share it in a way that they have the ability to play and add their own local content. So a lot of really good functionality here. If I have my channel and I share it in a way that they can only play and add local content, they'll be able to add their own and customize it. From here, I can now set it on a screen by clicking the set to screen button, and I can assign that new channel that I just created, the break room channel, to any of the screens that are currently in the space that I'm in, which is Charlotte. So I can assign it there, or I could do it from the Screens Manager menu. The very last thing I want to say about channels is the ability to schedule. So if we click back on this break room channel that we created, everything does default to play all day, every day. However, you have the ability to schedule different days and times for that content. So if I only wanted this break room content to play on Mondays, from 12 to 3, I could make those changes here. You can have multiple different ways you can set the content, which is one of the great ways or one of the great features about the channels for displaying content. If I go to Houston, where I shared that channel, notice here's that break room channel that I shared with everyone in the company. So somebody who's in the Houston space could click on this break room channel, and everything that was set up in that channel is locked. So Houston would not be able to actually edit anything on the shared end, but they would be able to add their own content here. So if they had their own birthday wish for their Houston location, they could add it to what was already in the shared channel, and it would play on one big loop. So that is channels. I'll go ahead and stop there and open it up for any questions.
I don't know if we have any questions that have come in so far, but I'll take a look. And I know we are getting closer to the top of the hour, but if anyone is on in the audience and wants to throw in a question, please just do that now. And I'll keep an eye out for it. But while we're waiting for that to come in, I think we can kind of get into a little bit of a wrap up. Oh, my poll. I forgot about my poll. All right, let's kind of dive in. I should push that poll. So of our audience who was here today, we had 25% of us were 25% of you. We're still trying to figure out ScreenCloud, so I hope you got a bunch of good information today. We had a new users, and we had another 25% that were seasoned pros. Thank you all for joining, regardless of your ScreenCloud status. But we hope to see you here again next time as well. I do want to say thank you to Erica for providing this training, and also thank you to all of you for joining us today. We are going to continue to do this more into the new year. We're going to make sure that we have a bunch of different topics for everyone to learn. If you have any questions or want to explore different features, please let us know in the Q&A or in the chat of any of our events that you join, and we'll be here to help. So thank you all so much for your time.